If you bake gluten-free sourdough regularly, you're probably ending up with extra starter. But instead of wasting it, we're turning it into golden, crave-worthy waffles. This recipe only takes one bowl, simple ingredients, and is great for busy mornings or brunch with friends. So can you see in my jar of starter this line of residue? It has risen and fallen, so it's now past peak. So if I mix up a loaf of gluten-free sourdough bread right now, I wouldn't have optimal results because a lot of the fermentation power is gone. But it is still full of flavor and beneficial microbes, and it can be used in discard recipes like this one. And waffles is one of our family's favorite ways to use discard. Before we mix up the batter, a little disclaimer. I use metric when baking gluten-free food because it is much more accurate. So I'll be measuring on a food scale in grams, but I'll leave the recipe link below so you can choose either metric or standard US measurements if you prefer using that, or if you don't have a food scale. But I will continue to encourage you to buy a simple scale for better results. They're usually less than $20 on Amazon. All right, here's what you'll need to make these gluten-free sourdough discard waffles. This recipe makes about 8 waffles or 5 Belgian waffles. I use King Arthur's Measure for Measure gluten-free flour blend. It already has xanthan gum, but if your blend doesn't contain xanthan gum, you'll need to add some. We also have our baking powder, salt. I use pink Himalayan salt, and then our sugar, just white sugar. Then for our wet ingredients, we have our gluten-free sourdough discard, 2 eggs, and oil. I use organic hyaluronic sunflower oil, and vanilla and milk. You'll also need cooking spray or oil for the waffle iron. And just a little note that if you are dairy-free, gluten-free oat milk works great for this, or any of your preferred dairy-free alternatives. I will just caution you, don't use coconut milk because it adds additional oils. Our family absolutely loves these crispy gluten-free sourdough discard waffles. So first we're going to start with adding all our dry ingredients into the bowl of our stand mixer. This is 210 grams of King Arthur's Measure for Measure gluten-free flour blend. And then we are going to use gluten-free baking powder that is about 15 grams. Next up, 2 grams of salt. And then 75 grams of sugar. Once all our dry ingredients are in the bowl, we're going to give everything a stir till it's well combined. Then we will move on to our wet ingredients. Right on top of our dry ingredients, we're going to add 230 grams of our gluten-free sourdough discard starter, 2 large eggs, you can also use flax eggs, and then 100 grams of oil. We are also going to be adding 9 grams of vanilla extract, as well as 225 grams of whatever milk you prefer. For dairy-free alternatives, I like oat milk. And that's it. All the ingredients are now in the bowl. We're going to take it over to the stand mixer and get it well combined. A few lumps may remain, and that's totally fine, but we're going to set it aside for 5 minutes to fully hydrate the flours while we get the waffle iron hot. Okay, now that the batter is mixed up, we're going to let that rest for 5 minutes. This is really important with gluten-free flours because it helps the grains fully hydrate, and that helps to get rid of that grainy, unpleasant texture that sometimes goes along with gluten-free baking. And so while that's happening, we're going to get our waffle iron really blazing hot so that we will have crispy waffles. So depending on the size of your waffle iron, we're going to fill it to about 3/4 of the way full so that there is room to expand, but that it won't overflow as well. You don't want to fill it all the way to the edges with batter and then have a mess overflowing everywhere. For my Belgian style waffle iron, I use about 3/4 of a cup, and I'm going to pour it in, close the lid, and wait for 2 minutes. We're going to spray some oil into the hot pan. Even if yours is non-stick, you should be adding a little bit of oil at least to help get those edges really nice and crisp. Then we're going to pour the batter into the hot waffle iron and cook it for about 2 minutes. We want to go for it not by time as much as we want to go by how much steam is being released. With our hot waffle iron, even if it's non-stick, please still use a little oil. That helps it get crispy. Immediately add 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup scoop of waffle batter to the waffle iron and close it so it can cook. Waffle irons will have an indicator light, but I don't rely on that to tell me when it's done. It's hard to capture steam unless there's a black background, but look at all that steam. It's still coming out pretty quickly, so we're not done yet. All right, so we're at about 2.5 minutes now. I'm going to remove this. You can see it's nice and golden crispy, nice little pockets. So We're going to leave it on a cooling rack to cool. The one thing to note is that as we are making them, do not stack them on top of each other. Keep them spread out away because once they are layered, that's going to trap steam and that's what's going to make them soggy. So you can either leave them like this, or I can pop this right into the oven that's like preheated at 300 degrees. That will keep them nice and crisp in between. We have to do them one at a time. Today I'm going to use a classic topping combo of butter and maple syrup, but we also really love using our homemade strawberry jam and fresh whipped cream. You really can't go wrong with what you're going to top these with because they're just so good any way you serve them. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you really enjoy this recipe, and if you want more gluten-free recipes, you can find them over on my channel or at joannaoverly.com.